Coming up, after USAID, now FEMA corruption comes to light. USAID revelations keep coming. Democrats continue pushing the constitutional crisis angle, and wild claims from the Democrats about Doge. FEMA is in the news again.
Fox News Alert. Moments ago, we received this together. We received a statement from the DHS regarding the $59 million sent from FEMA to New York City migrants last week. Quote, 4 employees being fired today for circumventing leadership and unilaterally making the egregious payment for hotels for migrants in New York City. We have not announced it yet, so we have it first. There's going to be firings. The names are going to be out.
FEMA paid New York City illegal aliens $59 million for hotel accommodation, despite instructions not to do so by the Trump administration. Included among the 4 fired is USAID former CFO Mary Comins. Unbelievably, Comins had the following advice in a training session not long ago.
Our job is to ensure the best use of the resources entrusted to us, and every one of you has an important part in that job. I want to emphasize the importance of our mission and the part you play in it.
That is some statement. The best use of the resources entrusted to them. When you look at the scandal with FEMA, they have done nothing of the sort. The deep state, unfortunately, has become really deeply entrenched within these organisations and departments over the last few decades, to the point where people such as this believe that they are a law unto themselves and can simply defy instructions. Then we have the ongoing disgrace that is USAID.
Understand that they cannot defend these expenditures. They're corrupt, they're unnecessary. Many of them are probably unlawful, so they go on offense and call Elon Musk names. I was shocked that we've been told, Laura, for the last 4 years that big deal, Anthony Fauci only routed $600,000 to Wuhan through EcoHealth. It couldn't have mattered at all. It's a multi-million-dollar enterprise, gain-in-function research, and now we learn they knew the entire time that USAID was putting $40 million to the Wuhan laboratory in China.
What you have here is laundering of funds that are being used for borderline illegal or indeed illegal activity through USAID, such as this example of funding Wuhan. This then allows other agencies to lie by omission to present a picture that they have not funded an organisation or have not funded an organisation much. If you enjoy this content, please like, share and subscribe. Now, Victor Davis Hanson makes an interesting point.
The receiving countries may not be as angry at being cut off as we think, because it's very ironic the left turned out to be 19th century cultural imperialists that were trying to impose their own values way out of the mainstream on these traditional societies that resented that. And the money mostly went to elites anyway, that they never saw much of it. So, and you know, they keep saying Elon Musk, he doesn't have a statutory role in actually making the cuts. He's an auditor. He just goes through, he says, these are the things that we find wasteful, and then the president, either himself or through his cabinet officers, makes the actual cuts.
USAID have been cultural imperialists, which is strange given the left's propensity to decry anyone with regards to cultural appropriation. The money that USAID sent came with woke strings attached, but a lot of the funding, even with those woke strings, never got to the people in need. Once again, clear graft and corruption. Then Marco Rubio allays concerns about actual aid getting to people in need.
things like, are people going to starve to death? Are we going to have a famine? Is it going to destabilize a country in a way that would be negative to our national interest and open the door for radical jihadists or others to take advantage? We're going to continue to do those. But the problem is that the definition of humanitarian has expanded beyond that.
The State Department will be sending aid where required, but not to the ridiculously expanded list of what constituted humanitarian aid during Biden's administration. Then Trump talks about the CFBP.
Mr. President, regarding the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, have said that by freezing it, it's giving big banks and giant corporations the green light to scam families.
Pocahontas, the faker. That was set up to destroy people. She used that as her little personal agency to go around and destroy people. And she's a fake. Just like she said she was an Indian. And
it appears that the CFBP, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, which Elizabeth Warren sees as her signature achievement, is going to go. It appears that there was more to it than met the eye, and it was used for insidious purposes. And then we get Rashida Tlaib on government.
They're not experiments. Our people and our communities and our families are not experiments for Elon Musk. And so it's really hard to be in this space to talk about something that I think a lot of people do care about. But at this moment, we're acting like there isn't a crisis going on in our government right now.
Once again, with a stupid Democrat talking point about there being a constitutional crisis. Of course, there isn't one. It is just that Tlaib and her fellow Democrats hate to see the woke, corrupt, fraudulent structure that they have put together for decades being pulled apart. MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski on this issue.
It is a constitutional crisis when the President of the United States doesn't care what the Constitution says, regardless whether Congress or the courts resist. Up until now, while presidents might engage in particular acts that were unconstitutional, there was never a sense that, the Constitution was meaningless. And the bottom line is the flurry and the chaos of it may make it so that the courts won't even have the time to react. To that, you say what?
I think we need to be careful with the term constitutional crisis, because as I define it, that would be a situation where the Constitution doesn't have an answer and there is a pressing conflict.
Brzezinski, on her husband Morning Joe's program, tries to continue to push the Democrat talking point of constitutional crisis. However, even MSNBC's own legal analyst isn't having a bar of this argument. And then we have CNN's Scott Jennings on the issue.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying whether you're complying with the law and then you have these individual district court judges setting effectively broad federal policy that is specifically reserved for the President of the United States. I think we do have a constitutional crisis, and it's being caused by these judges. They're not here to tell us. They're not here to tell us how to spend the money. They're not here to set broad federal policy. That is the president's job as elected by the people. These judges are supposed to be settling discrete, specific matters, not policy setting.
Jennings thinks that the real constitutional crisis is these tame judges that the Democrats are using to fight broad policy strokes by putting in injunctions. The fact is, federal judges, and there are 300 of them, are supposed to deal with specific cases, not broad brush strokes of policy to impede an elected president's agenda. Given 300 judges, you could always find a judge to slap an injunction on almost anything. Seems the Democrats are continuing their agenda of using lawfare, a continuation of the last 2 years, but now on an entirely duly elected president's administration. Alan Dershowitz talks about this issue.
They search all over the country for the best judges. They handpick the judges. They file the lawsuits. And you get judges saying, no, Mr. President, you can't do that. And so you get a single judge for about an hour, being able to stop the president from doing something. I say an hour metaphorically, it could be days. But ultimately, those issues are brought up to the Court of Appeals and eventually to the Supreme Court. And it will be resolved, and the president will obey. He wouldn't.
Although what Dershowitz says is technically correct, the fact is this is something that should be used sparingly for important matters of real concern. It should not be a blunt instrument to be used for what the Democrats cannot achieve in their duly elected constitutional roles, to put up legislation or indeed attempt to block legislation. What they are doing is akin to von Clausewitz's maxim of war being diplomacy by other means. The Democrats are using lawfare as politics by other means. Then the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on Doge.
To Sean, clearly the Democrats learned nothing from their devastating defeat on November 5th, because this is exactly what the American people voted for. President Trump campaigned alongside Elon Musk, and President Trump promised voters on the campaign that he was going to make our government more efficiency. He came up with the idea of Doge, and he told everybody in the world he would be appointing Elon Musk to cut through the waste, fraud, and abuse.
The simple fact is, during the election campaign, Trump was very clear about his objectives. He was going to task Elon Musk with auditing the various departments to find all the waste, fraud, and abuse. And he has been finding it in spades. If the Democrats think that resisting this will be good politics for them, they are dreaming. The American people support Doge, and they hate seeing their money wasted. And what they see here is the Democrats running a protection racket for this fraud. Senator Kennedy also talks about Doge.
Now, among the blue hairs and the opinion writers in Washington, we're losing. We're winning with the American people. And I think, Bill and Dana, the big picture should not go unnoticed. Some people, mostly my Democratic colleagues, have chosen to support the bureaucracy and the spending porn over the American taxpayer. These are the same folks who chose to support illegal immigration over the rule of law, who chose to support teachers' unions over schools and kids, who chose to support criminals over crime victims, who chose to support transgender athletes over women's sports, frankly.
Kennedy really hits to the core about what the Democrats are doing in trying to prevent Doge from doing their job. He also highlights a whole lot of other things that the Democrats have supported previously over the best interests of the American people. Then we have Democrat Representative Rosa DeLauro. One look at her appearance will tell you exactly where her politics lies.
Let me ask you more about the role of Elon Musk. President Trump praised Musk and all these government purges that we're seeing through his so-called Doge office. This is what he said in his Fox interview yesterday.
And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him to do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
How do you respond to that?
Well, look, I think that, first of all, what I refer to Elon Musk as President Musk, and you've got the OMB director, Ross Vogt. They're responsible for the chaos, and it's Project 2025. They're stealing appropriations. And to be honest, what people need to know is that taking the funds, stealing what are appropriated funds, runs into the daunting power, the power of the purse, which rests with the Congress, and that is in the Constitution of the United States. Do you think we're not going to fight back on that issue? But I think it was prescient what President Trump said today. The U.S. aid was just a skirmish. They're going after the Department of Education and limiting people's opportunity to get an education in this country.
She has a dismissive huff when Musk's name is mentioned. And then she uses the other exhausted Democrat talking point, trying to make out that Musk is the president. And stealing funds? What they have is a protection racket for abuse of public funds. And then the ridiculous notion that somehow Trump wants to stop education as opposed to stopping waste and misappropriation. And let's have a look at some of those in the education department and how they behave.
Knew their rights and knew they didn't have to let ICE in. ICE went away, and so this can make all the difference in the world. So rights are, if ICE comes to the home, you do not have to open the door. In fact, you should not open the door. I asked the question during one of the trainings, if you open the door but leave the chain on, is that considered opening the door or leaving it shut? And I was told that could be interpreted as allowing ICE in, and so you should keep the door closed.
Here, you have a teachers' union representative instructing on how to prevent ICE from doing their job. Is this what education is supposed to be about? Is this the sort of education that DeLauro is worried about ending? Then we have more of getting rid of the woke.
There it is. Pursuant to the authority of the Secretary of Defense, Title 10, United States Code, Section 113, I direct the Army to change the name of Fort Liberty, North Carolina to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's right, Bragg is back.
And here is a good one to finish with. The woke changing of the name from Fort Bragg to Fort Liberty has been reversed. It's now Fort Bragg again. Slowly, or maybe not so slowly, the woke agenda is being dismantled. What do you think of the Democrat agenda to try to prevent President Trump from following through on his election promises? Please let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching.